Hello and welcome back to True Crime Guys podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and of course I have the other leader of my cult, Andy, here with me.
Co-leader.
Co-leader. Oh, we're giving you the co-leader title.
Co-leader.
I was going to give you assistant to the leader.
Oh, yes. There we go. Assistant to the leader.
Leader of the cult.
Yes.
Yes. We're doing some cult shit today, Andy.
On the free platform?
We are. We're also doing something that have we done this before? Have we redone an episode before?
I think we
feel
have
like we
kind
have
of done
one.
yes. When I first came on, I think we did a redo when you and Lauren had done one, and then we did a redo. I can't remember which one it was, though, off the top of my head.
Me
right
either,
now.
but I feel like we have. But we have not redone a cult.
No.
Especially
not a big
not one of my favorite, can you say favorite cults? I don't know. One of my favorite cults to study. Let's put it that way.
One of the more interesting cults to you.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting. I loved talking about Heaven's Gate the first time around, and I think it would be a lot of fun for us to discuss it now.
Mm-hmm.
And since we've done that episode, there's been tons of documentaries and new shit in media revolving around Heaven's Gate.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's look at it again. And, I'm going to talk about it with Andy because Andy, like myself, has a religious background. And so, we tend to have a little more fun with the cult conversation.
Yeah.
I guess.
Heaven's Gate was one of the first cults for our for us, especially our generation.
Yeah, it took place in the late 90s.
And we were kind of conscious enough to see it about the news and hear about it and this this big death cult or whatever. It was like the first time our generation really got to experience that with consciousness,
Exactly. But guys, before we get into it, I want to remind you that you can catch these episodes early and ad-free on our Patreon, patreon.com/truecrimeguys. There's a link right below the description of this episode. But we have lots to offer here at TCG Productions, even on the free platform. Make sure you check out our other shows like Strange and Unexplained and newly added to TCG Network, Cryptic Soup with Thina and Kylie. They release new episodes every Wednesday, so make sure you give them a listen. Again, that's Cryptic Soup. Make sure you give them a listen, a follow on Instagram as well, at Cryptic Soup Pod. Okay? Please, guys, make sure you check that out and Strange and Unexplained wherever you listen to podcasts. I mean, it's free.
Yeah, why not?
I mean, it's free and it's quality content. Also, you can subscribe on YouTube and follow on social media for all kinds of daily true crime reels and shenanigans. Who knows what we're going to post on there, Andy?
Did you say shenanigans?
Yeah, I did.
Oh.
But today, we are getting into some cult shenanigans. Maybe some of the most devastating cult shenanigans next to, say, Jonestown.
Right up there, yeah.
Yeah, pretty devastating. It just doesn't have the numbers of Jonestown, but otherwise, awful.
Yeah.
Heaven's Gate was an American UFO religious cult based out of San Diego, California, and it was founded in 1974. It was led by Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles. And on March 26, 1997, police discovered the bodies of 39 members of the group who had participated in a mass suicide in order to reach what they believed was an extraterrestrial spacecraft following the Hale-Bopp comet. Just before the suicide, the group's website was updated with the message, Hale-Bopp brings closure to Heaven's Gate. Our 22 years of classroom here on planet Earth is finally coming to conclusion. Graduation from the human evolutionary level.
God, that early website too, man.
Whoa.
I think it's still up and
it
it's
is
all its
still up.
original
and allegedly
format.
There's 2 people left that still run it.
Well,
They're not doing anything, but they know about it. But they know about it.
The Watchers.
But we don't know who they are.
I mean, we might.
We might. Roll that intro.
Okay.
I'll tell you who I am. As to whether or not you believe who I am or not is up to you. I'm from kingdom level above human. Everyone's quick to condemn. I mean, they don't even see anymore. They just see a tiny little aspect of someone else and they quickly determine that they're so brilliant that they can judge it as being not what they're looking for, worthless, some radical movement. Human ways, human behavior, human ignorance, human misinformation.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
This is your chance. I'm here. I can take you out of here. I can lead you into that kingdom level above human. That can't happen unless you leave the human world that you're in and come and follow me.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Time is short. Last.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Oh. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti.
All right, Andy. So let's start off with the founder and honestly the face of this crazy cult, Marshall Herff Applewhite. I love that middle name, Herff.
I know it sounds like it's just a good old boy name right there.
Oh, Marshall Herff.
Yeah, if you just have the first name Herff, that's just
Herff.
like, yeah. Oh, you take it up to Herff's house.
Yeah.
What's Herff do? A little bit of everything.
But I feel like he's from like the Midwest country boy, though.
I know,
You
just
know,
Herff sounds like a guy who just does a little bit of everything.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. He's probably like a dairy farmer, but he lives so far out that he's just got to he's got to learn all kinds of shit.
Yeah, just take it to Herff's place.
Yeah. Well, Marshall Herff Applewhite was born in Spur, Texas on May 16th, 1931 to Marshall Herff Applewhite Sr. and his wife Louise. He had 3 siblings and his father was a Presbyterian minister and he was raised, how do we say, very religious, Andy.
Oh yeah, his father was
Quite
a
religious.
very religious Presbyterian
Yes.
minister. I mean, he like founded like several small little Presbyterian churches, just like kind of traveling around. Yeah, he helped settle multiple churches at one point in his life. So it's like, yeah, this guy was a born and bred Presbyterian
You think
Christian.
he started churches or did he like go to pastor and lead churches and then just kept leaving and going to different ones?
What I read, it said that he helped helped start several small churches along the way. So he kind of one of those kind of like traveling ministers, or maybe just a
Interesting.
pastor who kind of filled in places that needed one until they found their full-time pastor or something like that. Something along those lines.
Applewhite attended Corpus Christi High School and Austin College. At Austin College, he was active in several student organizations and at this point was moderately religious. Okay, Andy, let's just say it that way, according to his peers at the time. Okay, so he's losing a little bit of religiousness, as most people do in college, right? He can get it back. I have faith. He earned a bachelor's degree in philosophy in 1952 and enrolled at Union Presbyterian Seminary to study theology, hoping to become a minister. He married Ann Pierce around that time, and they later had 2 children. Now, early in his seminary studies, he decided to leave the school to pursue a career in music, becoming the music director of a Presbyterian church right here in North Carolina.
In my hometown of Gastonia,
Here
North
in
Carolina.
North Kakalaki. Was it in Gastonia?
It was in Gastonia, North Carolina.
Some beach.
That's where I was born and raised, baby.
God dang.
I was like, we got that, and we got Fred Durst, baby. We got Woo
Watch out, everybody.
and Sundrop. I get.
Hey, what else do you need?
I don't know.
God dang. Well, wait a minute. We don't want to claim Marshall Applewhite, though, do we?
No.
He's not from here. He's Texas.
He's not from here.
No,
but
yeah,
he just
no.
was here for a.
We didn't
little bit.
create this. He was just here.
No, we made Fred Durst.
But anyways, let's get back to Applewhite here. He was a baritone singer, and he enjoyed spiritual hymns and the music of Handel. In 1954, he was drafted by the United States Army. He served in Austria and New Mexico as a member of the Army Signal Corps. He left the military in 1956 and enrolled at the University of Colorado. There, he earned a master's degree in music and mainly focused on musical theater.
Apparently, he was a relatively talented performer and
yeah.
singer as a young man.
I'm guessing so. Because then he moved to New York in an attempt to launch a professional singing career upon finishing his education in Colorado. He then taught at the University of Alabama. Man, he's all over the place, dude. He lost his position there after pursuing a sexual relationship with a male student. His religious upbringing was clashing with his sexual desires here.
Yeah, and at that point, what was it? That was classified as a mental health issue or something like a mental health disorder.
Yeah, I think even
was,
he himself was classifying it as that at that point.
I think that's what he was terminated for on paper.
Yeah.
It was like mental health issues or something along those lines.
Exactly. He separated from his wife when she learned of this affair in 1965, and they officially divorced 3 years later. Now, after leaving the University of Alabama, Applewhite moved to Houston, Texas. Now, this is in 1965, after divorcing his wife, to teach at the University of St. Thomas. His students regarded him as an engaging speaker and a stylish dresser. I bet he was.
He's a theater major.
Yeah. He served as chair of the music department. He also became a locally popular singer, serving as the choral director of an Episcopal church and performing with the Houston Grand Opera. In Texas, he actually spent some time, just briefly, openly gay, but also pursued a relationship with a young woman. You can see it's still clashing here. It's like that religion, man. He just can't quite let go of that.
Yeah, apparently that was a big struggle with him for a lot of his early life, was struggling with his sexuality.
Yes.
To where it's one of the reasons it became such a, no sexuality.
No sexuality. Sexuality is bad.
How about none of us have any of it,
what?
okay?
I'm sure all of you are struggling just like me, so let's no one do it.
Yeah. If we can't have what we want, we can't have anything at all, okay?
That's right.
I mean, we shouldn't have anything at all, okay?
Pretty much. So but at the same time of being openly gay, he was pursuing a relationship with a young woman. I think he was trying to make it work, right? But she ended up leaving him under pressure from her family, who apparently didn't care for him very much. But this really kind of messed him up and sent him into a spiral of depression, even into 1970. Now, Robert Balch and David Taylor, sociologists who studied Applewhite's group, they speculate that this departure was prompted by another affair between Applewhite and a student.
I mean, it's one of those things. He not to say he has a specific type, but it's like he kind of leans towards a more open-minded generation, or a younger, more open to these ideas instead of these people he grew up with his whole life. He's moved around a lot at this point too. So
absolutely. The president of the university there at St. Thomas later recalled that he was often mentally jumbled and disorganized while he was there. And in 1971, Applewhite briefly moved to New Mexico, where he operated a deli. He was popular with customers, but decided to return to Texas later that year. His father died around that time, and the loss took a significant emotional toll on him, causing even more severe depression, causing him to miss work. His debts were mounting, which forced him to borrow money from friends. And it was here, Andy, at the bottom of the metaphorical barrel, that Applewhite then began his journey into biblical prophecy. How convenient.
Oh, right.
He's like, okay, nothing else worked out. I guess I'll try this religious shit.
Mm-hmm.
and in March of 1972, he met Bonnie Nettles, a 44-year-old married nurse with an interest in philosophy and biblical prophecy.
There's different, from what I remember, there's different stories about how him and Bonnie kind of came into each other's lives. There was one retelling of he met her in the hospital where she was a nurse who was taking care of him.
Yeah.
And then there was another one where he was introduced to her as by a mutual friend.
Okay.
But it's I'm pretty sure he was taking care of her, or she was taking care of him at one point as a nurse.
Yeah.
And she said that because his thing was, she told him that that God had spared him, that he was here for a specific purpose, and he was special to a degree, and he just took that and ran with it. He just as soon as she started telling him those things,
right?
It was that just that. Just the Bonnie and Clyde type situation of that one person who just heard that one thing they needed to hear from that one person. It was bam, we got this.
It must have worked because the two of them quickly became close friends. Applewhite later recalled that he felt like he had known her for a long time and that they had met in a past life. She told him their meeting had been foretold to her by extraterrestrials, further encouraging him that he had a divine assignment, of course. Mm-hmm. Now, around this time, he began to investigate alternatives to the Christian doctrine, including astrology. He also had several visions, including one in which he was told that he was chosen for a role of a Jesus-like person, if you will. Basically, Jesus, Andy.
Yeah.
It also should be noted, though, around this time, Applewhite was suffering from schizophrenic episodes. So, it's kind of tough.
If I remember, I was watching one of the documentaries on him.
Episode.
One of the documentaries I was talking about, I remember one of the people he worked with in this theaters scene was Patrick Swayze's mom.
Shit.
She was talking about how she was he normally was just a kind of eccentric, performer. And then he started kind of having these just weird moments where he was just kind of rambling and preaching about these different ideas and this new ideology he had adopted. And it's like, yeah, when your seemingly normal friend just starts a really weird left turn in this conversation and be like, hold on, what do you mean new religion? Hold on, what?
What do you mean level above human?
Yeah.
What do you mean about that?
I mean, a different plane. What?
But yeah, he was, him and Nettles were on the same plane though, Andy, because they soon moved in together. But although they were living together, their relationship was not a sexual one, fulfilling his longtime wish to have a deep and loving platonic relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the two of them kind of, like I said, I
think he is, I don't think this is what he really wants, but I think he's like, if I could just live with a woman, it outwardly shows better, you know, because even this is still the 70s. Like,
yeah.
Come on.
It seemed like almost like Bonnie Nettles was kind of more like asexual to an extent, even though she had 2 children. That was more of like the normal time period to do that.
Right.
Like as she got into her newer life, she became more just like asexual, and kind of he just adopted that same thing of like
he was like,
well, sexuality's
you can do
always
that? Yeah,
sexuality's always been a problem for me. Right. So like
you can just ditch that?
Yeah. So if I just don't do it all together, then the problem solved.
There you go. There you go. But the problem with this little situation was that Nettles was still married with 2 children. But the closer she became with Applewhite, eventually her husband, he couldn't deal with it anymore, and he divorced her, and she also lost custody of her children. So that just goes to show that she was probably unable to prove her mental capacity to the court.
Yeah. Or she didn't really attempt to.
True.
Yeah, because the 2 of them, they just connected and took off.
I don't know. I can't see her not trying to fight for her kids, but maybe because you're supposed to leave all of your earthly possessions, right? That is one of the main things, like all of your earthly attachments, all of them.
Didn't Marshall have 2 children with his first wife as well? And he does not bring them at all. Like he doesn't even try to get them into the group.
That's very true.
So it may have just been like we are these 2 beings. Like that was our mortal life behind us.
Yeah, it'll become a lot more clear how Marshall sees the human experience, whereas the physical form, the spiritual form, and all of that shit's separate. You know what I'm saying? So to him. So yeah, Applewhite permanently broke off contact with his family as well, because he saw Nettles as his soulmate. And he didn't need anybody else. And she had a really strong influence on him.
Bonnie was kind of like the almost like she influenced him, and he was the face. Like,
Exactly. And in February of 1973, they started traveling to teach their beliefs all throughout the Southwest and the western part of the United States. They didn't have much money and occasionally resorted to selling their blood and working odd jobs or whatever they had to do to get by. They subsided solely on bread rolls at times, even camping out in parking lots, and sometimes didn't even pay their lodging bills when they stayed places.
Didn't even pay their car rental things sometimes. I think it was one of the times
no, they don't. We will get to that.
They don't pay all their bills all the time.
They do not pay many bills around this time. But it all paid off, though, when one of their friends from Houston agreed to accept their teachings. And in May of 1974, they had their first convert, Andy.
Bam.
And now they believe in themselves.
It's all downhill from here,
right?
baby.
It's like one person has a vision. It's like, well, maybe it's true, you know. Then you have another person that says, yes, the vision is real. I've had the same thing. You're like, oh, shit. Okay, well, I guess it's us against the world. But then you get another random person just by talking to them. Oh, you feel like you really got something now.
It's addicting.
It is. Applewhite and Nettles became interested in the life of St. Francis of Assisi and read works on the occult. Also books on psychosis and about flying and philosophy. They kept a King James Bible with them and studied several passages from the New Testament, focusing on teachings about Christology. Asceticism?
I'm not really sure what that one is.
Asceticism, well, I have the definition here. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's severe self-discipline and avoidance of all forms of indulgence, typically for religious reasons.
Okay.
So basically punishing yourself. And eschatology, which is, if you're unfamiliar with that as well, which so was I, the part of theology concerned with death, judgment, and the final destiny of the soul and of humankind. It's
okay.
Right? It's like you described, it's like, shit, I wish I do need to know about this.
Like the entire study of just the afterlife. Like what happens when I die? Doesn't matter what happens when I do here. What happens when I die?
Exactly. So they are doing their research, right? They're basing it on, they're loosely basing it, let me say that, on the Bible, New Testament, but also I have to bring it up right here. Among all these, all these books here, he's also reading science fiction books.
Well, obviously, you got to get some good ideas here there.
Obviously. He's probably reading like some Terry Pratchett or something. But by June 1974, Applewhite and Nettles' belief system had solidified. The religious sci-fi concoction was finally complete, Andy. We have cherry-picked all of our favorite things, and here they are.
Well, listen, it's always, to start a successful cult, you got to do the reading.
You got to do the reading.
You got to do the homework. You got to do the reading. To where when someone asks you a question or challenges you.
That's right. I was about to say, you got to know your questions.
You got to be able to pull it out. You got to be able to pull those quotes out or that page or whatever.
They
did the reading, so I mean, they were off to a good start.
They were off to a good start, but let me tell you, Andy, that cult life don't come easy. Okay,
Colton ain't easy, baby.
Colton is not easy, and there were some hiccups. All right, like for instance, in August of 1974, Applewhite was arrested in Harlingen, Texas, for failing to return a car that he had rented in Missouri. He was extradited back to St. Louis and jailed for 6 months. Now, at the time, he maintained that he had been divinely authorized to keep the car, Andy, so it don't matter. I mean, I don't get why these guys don't get that.
I'm sorry. Look at the rental agreement. Look at the name on the rental agreement says Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
Listen, I'm sorry. It's not my fault. You didn't read the fine print on your own papers. It's not my fault.
But after Applewhite's release, he and Nettles wrote a pamphlet that described Jesus' reincarnation as a Texan who had a strong resemblance to Applewhite, come to think of it, Andy.
I feel like they're just laying these breadcrumbs for
right?
us to leading somewhere,
weird.
Isn't it?
It's somewhere. They also stated that there were 2 witnesses described in the book of Revelation and occasionally visited churches or other spiritual groups to speak of their identities, often referring to themselves as those 2 or the UFO 2.
I remember that verse, whatever. It's like 2 witnessed the crucifixion or the resurrection, and then they it's like 2 witnessed all these things in the book of Revelation, and they were killed, and then they resurrected, and then they were transported to a different plane. And
that's Applewhite and Nettles.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, that's them. They believed that they would be killed and then restored to life and transported onto a spaceship, just like that, Andy.
Exactly.
Now, this event, which they referred to as the demonstration, was going to prove their claims.
That would be quite the demonstration of your claims.
That would be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for some reason, Andy, these ideas just weren't received by existing religious communities around them. It's
shocking.
Crazy, right? I don't get why they didn't jump on board, do car washes together,
shocking.
do some fun.
Shocking that the Christian and Catholic churches did not jump at
They don't want to team up for revivals?
These new ideas to their long-standing traditions.
But Applewhite and Nettles didn't give a shit, man. They believed that they had been chosen to fulfill biblical prophecies and that they had been given higher level minds than other people, okay? So once you believe that right there, you're pretty much doomed.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They were going to contact extraterrestrials, and they knew there were others who believed as they did. So they published advertisements for meetings where they recruited disciples whom they called the Crew. Very original.
It's very Star Trek-y.
Yeah, it is very Star Trek-y.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the events, they claimed to represent beings from another planet, of course, the next level, who sought participants for an experiment. Yeah, count me out.
Yeah. Okay,
Did you just say experiment, sir? Yeah, I'm good.
This is very Star Trek. We're looking for people to join our crew to venture out to the next generation of space. You just is there like a billboard behind me?
Is this a commercial? But they claimed that those who agreed to take part in the experiment would be brought to a higher evolutionary level. Applewhite described his role as a lab instructor and served as the primary speaker, while Nettles occasionally interjected clarifying remarks or corrections, right, just in case he got the theology wrong. But the 2 seldom personally spoke with attendees after their presentation. They only would take phone numbers to contact them later. So that's interesting. They weren't up for scrutiny right away.
Yeah, no questions, please.
No. 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 is how we prefer it.
We are not taking any questions after this. Thank you and goodbye.
Yeah. exactly.
I do love how Bonnie was just actually like the actually person from the back of the crowd, from the side of the stage every time. He's like, Marshall's out there just giving his spiel,
Yeah.
says something, like, and from the sides, like Bonnie's just like, well, actually, it's this.
Actually,
Yes, dear. It was,
exactly.
actually, Marshall, that's right. That's right. Damn it.
Right. Above human. Right. Ah, God. But they initially named their cult. I mean, the organization. I'm sorry.
Yes.
They named it Anonymous Sexaholic Celibate Church. What the fuck? Anonymous Sexaholics Celibate Church.
There's already Sexaholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
But then you throw those are. I feel like you just picked and chose some words here.
Yeah,
people.
they're just like, come here and don't have sex with us.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you're anonymous
And then-
sexaholic,
and then we're gonna go to space if you don't have sex with us.
yeah.
Okay.
I guess the
I
only
think I
way
got it
they're
now.
they think that the only way to cure sex addiction is through pure celibacy.
It's just pure. That's it. That's it.
God, we grew up with this,
Right?
Michael.
It
Abstinence
definitely
is the
won't
only
make
way.
it worse.
Abstinence is the only way to prevent pregnancy.
Exactly. But it was quickly. But they quickly changed the name. They didn't stay as Anonymous Sexaholic Celibate Church very long. They changed it to Human Individual Metamorphosis. Okay, that's a little bit better.
It sounds more like a process than a group, but I like it better.
It really does. It sounds like a scientific process. Later that year, the crew assembled at a hotel in Waldport, Oregon. They got a whole crew now, Andy. They're growing.
The crew has been assembled.
The crew has been assembled. After selling all their worldly possessions and saying goodbye to loved ones, the group vanished from the hotel and from the public eye. That night on CBS Evening News, Walter Cronkite reported that the group had disappeared. In one of the very first national reports on the developing religious group, he said, quote, "A score of persons have disappeared. It's a mystery whether they've been taken on a so-called trip to eternity or simply been taken." Good line, Cronkite. Good line. Would expect nothing less. In reality, Applewhite and Nettles had arranged for the group to go underground. From that point, Doe and T, as the two now called themselves, as in Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do.
Gotcha. Of course. Yeah.
Of course. They're the beginning and the end.
Theater major.
That's right. Doe and T led the nearly 100-member crew across the country, sleeping in tents, sleeping bags, and begging in the streets. They're basically traveling the same way the two were together. Now they just have a whole crew.
Yeah.
Evading detection by the authorities and media enabled the group to focus on Doe and T's doctrine of helping members of the crew achieve a higher evolutionary level above human, to which they claim to have already reached, of course. And through their teaching, you can reach this higher evolutionary level, aka heaven. So naturally, Heaven's Gate was born. Okay, finally.
I mean, branding's not so hard, I guess.
I don't know. They messed up a few times.
I mean, they did. We saw the evolution of their name. It was.
It took a while.
You really did not stick the first attempt.
No.
There's a blue sky face for a reason, people.
And that's right. But they continued to recruit after they went underground, proclaiming the gospel of higher level metamorphosis, the deceit of humans by false god spirits, envelopment with sunlight for meditative healing, and of course, most importantly, the divinity of the UFO2.
It's a pretty cool name to have.
The UFO2, right? Throughout the late 70s and early 80s, membership grew. Many of Applewhite and Nettles' crew are described as having been longtime truth seekers or spiritual hippies who had long since believed in attempting to find themselves. However, in complete contrast, one recruit early on was John Craig, a respected Republican running for the Colorado House of Representatives in 1975.
They were respectable back then.
Yeah, they were. Author Benjamin Zeller is much kinder in his description of the followers, insisting that they were not brainwashed into their beliefs, but rather they were just thoughtful individuals who were merely seeking a direction or purpose for their life, Andy.
Well, yes.
I mean, that's true in a sense.
Aren't we all just seeking purpose and direction in our lives? Mm-hmm. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, sometimes it helps to have the reincarnation of Jesus tell you, though. It helps.
That's why I listen to you, Michael. Hold on.
But as recruit numbers grew in its pre-internet days, the clan of UFO followers all seemed to have a common need for communal belonging without the constraints of institutionalized faith. However, it's not until the death of Nettles in 1985 and Applewhite's subsequent revision of the group's doctrines that they gained an eventual reputation as a cyberculture. In 1983, Nettles had an eye surgically removed because of a cancer diagnosed several years earlier. She lived for 2 more years, dying in 1985. Applewhite told their followers that she had traveled to the next level because she had, quote, too much energy to remain on Earth.
Yeah, because that's what a cancer patient seems like after struggling with severe cancer for 2 years. They've just they've got too much energy in this body to just contain it. So that's why she withered away. It's too much energy.
Listen,
it was too much energy, you know?
Yeah. He had a lot to explain with this death. It really threw some wrenches.
Yeah, it's hard to explain why your two anointed ones pass away and you didn't know it was coming.
Exactly. Well, for one, she abandoned her body to make the journey, okay? And his attempt to explain her death was successful. Only one member left after the death. One member was like, "Wait a minute. He's full of shit."
I feel like he's kind of full of shit. Mm-hmm. Well, because I feel like was this the same member who left when he first, like, because he like kind of rationalizes it as we have, like, yes, we all have to leave our vessel or our body behind, and he's like, I think he said like in that spiel, or maybe like that one time he says like, you know, and sometimes maybe what if we have to leave it by choice, and then like one person was just like, yeah, I'm out. Yeah, nope, sorry, nope. I'm out.
Nope, you're full of it.
Yep, sorry. You lost me.
Yep. But after this, Applewhite became very depressed. He claimed that Nettles still communicated with him, but he suffered from a crisis of faith. But his students supported him during this time. They encouraged him. He then organized a ceremony in which he symbolically married his followers, which is viewed as an attempt to ensure unity. You know, like Jesus. Mm-hmm. You know, the bride of Christ is what we're supposed to be, right?
But they all were, so yes.
Yeah. It's very similar, very similar. Applewhite told his followers that he had been left behind by Nettles because he still had more to learn. He felt that she occupied a higher spiritual role than he did. He began identifying her as the father and started referring to her with male pronouns even. After Nettles' death, Applewhite also altered his view of ascension. Previously, he had taught that the group would physically ascend from the earth. But obviously her death kind of complicated that, you know, because it left behind an unchanged body.
Yeah, there's still a body here.
So that forced him now to say that the ascension could be spiritual. Mm-hmm. There are options. We'll get to those. He concluded that her spirit had traveled to a spaceship and received a new body, and that he and his followers would do the same. Now, this eventually opened the door, at the suggestion of Applewhite, of course, that they could ascend to the next level via suicide.
Like I said, it's that when he gives this speech, it's just like he's trying to justify the anointed one, who is from the past, who is there in Revelation, who's like who is the person who is giving him all this information.
Yep.
That she had to pass away and leave this body behind, and he suggests like all this stuff. And he's like, and maybe sometimes we may have to leave this vessel by choice, and just one person just, I'm just gonna, anybody,
no,
I'm just,
nobody's seeing how he's totally unsure.
I'll just see myself.
No?
It's cool.
Okay.
Cool. Can I keep the Nikes?
Love the decades. But Applewhite believed that once they reached the next level, they would facilitate evolution on other planets. He emphasized that Jesus, whom he believed was an extraterrestrial, came to Earth, was killed, and bodily rose from the dead before being transported onto a spaceship. Obviously. Applewhite then decided that there was probably an opportunity for humans to reach the next level, say, every 2 millennia? That sounds pretty good. That sounds convenient.
Hey, listen.
Right?
One's coming around pretty soon, I think.
Yeah. And the early 1990s would therefore provide the first opportunity to reach the kingdom of heaven since the time of Jesus. How convenient.
What did you know? Like I said, one of them's coming around, right?
There it
coming
is.
Up soon. Look at that.
And when challenged, Applewhite claimed his beliefs were based on the Christian Bible, but were interpreted through alien contact with humanity, so you wouldn't understand.
Obviously.
Okay? Yeah.
We've always heard of zombie Jesus, but alien Jesus is cool too.
Yeah, it's cool. By the mid-90s, rumors began spreading throughout the group that the upcoming Hale-Bopp comet housed the secret to their ultimate salvation and ascension into the kingdom of heaven. These rumors were broadcast through various video uploads on their webpage, which gained quite a following. In 1996, the group took their internet recruitment and technical savviness to new levels in a large home that they called the Monastery. It was a 9,000 square foot residence in Rancho Santa Fe, near San Diego, California. So the group, the cult, had purchased this home.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time, all of the remaining members were living in it.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is the neighbors did not know that many people were living in the home.
Because they made their members look so uniform and androgynous and all like literally wearing the same thing. It was hard to tell like how many people were living because they were all just coming and going. It looked like the same person.
Same haircuts, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Heaven's Gates members believed that the planet Earth was about to be recycled, wiped clean, renewed, refurbished, rejuvenated, however you want to say it, Andy.
Made into a bench.
That's right. And the only chance to survive was to leave it immediately. While the group was against suicide initially, Andy, they defined suicide in their own context. See, that's all you got to do is redefine something.
Exactly.
Yeah. They redefined it to mean to turn against the next level when it is being offered, and believed that their human bodies were only vessels meant to help them on their journey. Also, when referring to a person or a body, they would always use the word vehicle.
I mean, it makes sense. I feel like mine's already been pre-owned.
Yeah.
Like it just, like I feel like the Kelly Blue Book on this thing is just real shit at this point, and I really want to see the car. I want to see the Carfax.
Right.
It does not feel like it's certified.
What do I look like on a trade-in?
I feel like there was some actual framework damage at some point, and God, I don't want to see under the hood.
No. But I got a little information from their website here. Okay, this is straight from the website, which is still available, I believe. I'll link it below. We fully desire, expect, and look forward to boarding a spacecraft from the next level very soon in our physical bodies, in parentheses. There is no doubt in our mind that our being picked up is inevitable in the very near future. But what happens between now and then is the big question. We are keenly aware of several possibilities. It could happen that before that spacecraft comes, one or more of us could lose our physical vehicles, or our bodies, due to recall, accident, or at the hands of some irate individual.
Also, just sounds like you're talking about your car.
Yeah.
Recall, accident, hands of an unstable individual.
I know, right? Seriously. We do not anticipate this, but it is possible. Another possibility is that because of the position we take in our information. Another possibility is that because of the position we take in our information, we could find so much disfavor with the powers that control this world that there could be attempts to incarcerate us or to subject us to some sort of psychological or physical torture, such as occurred at both Ruby Ridge and Waco.
That wasn't psychological or physical torture. That was a raid and a horrible situation, and everything happened. But I'm not exactly sure the psychological or the psychological or physical torture.
Yeah,
to an extent.
Yeah, the members of the group added Adi to the first names that they adopted in lieu of their original given names, which defines children of the next level. And of course, this is mentioned in Applewhite's final video, Doe's Final Exit, which was filmed March 19th to 20th in 1997, which was just days before the suicides.
Yeah, that video is still up on YouTube as well. You can still find it.
It is. They believed to be eligible for membership in the next level, humans would have to shed every attachment to the planet. This meant all members had to give up all human-like characteristics, such as their family, friends, sexuality, individuality, jobs, money, and possessions. The evolutionary level above human, or Tila, was a physical or corporeal place, another world in our universe, where residents live in pure bliss and nourish themselves by absorbing pure sunlight. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, he really. We haven't even touched on the fact that he is one of the people who firmly believes that everyone will be, neutral and androgynous and like all the same. Like we hadn't even touched on the fact that him and some of the other males in their group had castrated themselves at this
That's very
point.
true. Yeah.
To where like they it wasn't mandatory. That was always something that happened with this cult. And when it first came around,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, they made all their men cut their nuts out. It's like, no, that was a voluntary thing that
Right,
if
right.
the men wanted to do that.
Right.
But yeah, he did. So it was
Yeah. Well, they didn't need that anymore because at the next level, beings do not engage in sexual intercourse, Andy.
nope.
They do not eat or die even in the next level. Okay? Heaven's Gate believed that what the Bible calls God is just a highly developed extraterrestrial. Members of Heaven's Gate believe that evil space aliens called Luciferians, after Lucifer himself, falsely represented themselves to Earthlings as God and conspired to keep humans from developing. Technically advanced humanoids, these aliens have spacecraft, space-time travel, telepathy, and increased longevity. Heaven's Gate believed that all existing religions on Earth had been corrupted by these evil aliens and that they used holograms to fake miracles.
I mean, that's kind of badass. If so, just a big alien race just coming out
crazy.
there, just doing a big Mysterio light show to make people just to make simple humans believe shit.
Right? It's a lot of work.
Yeah, we got a whole drone show up there just looking. It's like, oh look, it's a magical thing in the sky. Sector 2, your drone's off.
And although these basic beliefs of the group stayed pretty consistent over the years, the details of their ideology were flexible enough and they undergo a few modifications. Okay?
All your ideologies have to as they go.
They already have with the death of Nettles.
Yeah.
Right?
All cults have to evolve. They have to keep a cult going for any period of time. They got to keep evolving, and especially with something like this, like a doomsday cult type situation or whatever.
Yep.
They got to keep pushing those dates. They got to keep extending the goalpost.
Exactly. Like we talked about before, which they basically modified one of the ways that you could enter the next level all of a sudden, and they made suicide okay. They changed the way that they described themselves, placing more importance on the idea of Satan, and then they also added several other New Age concepts. One of these concepts was the belief of extraterrestrial walk-ins. Now, when the group began, Applewhite and Nettles taught their followers that they were extraterrestrial beings. However, after the notion of walk-ins became popular with the New Age subculture, the two changed their tune and began describing themselves as extraterrestrial walk-ins. Now, the idea of walk-ins is very similar to the concept of being possessed by a spirit, right, Andy? So it's just defined as an entity who occupies a body that has been vacated by its original soul.
So
Okay?
you didn't have
so
an
it's not
appointment.
Applewhite in there anymore.
You didn't have an appointment to occupy this body. You were just this body was vacant, and we just
Yeah.
took a walk in. Anybody need one right now? You first in line. Come on up.
We're accepting walk-ins.
This wasn't claimed at drop off.
And but this concept of a walk-in, it really helped Applewhite and Nettles, get a clean slate. You know what I'm saying? Like, it really helped them start over as these omnipotent beings or whatever they were claiming to be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because of this so-called clean slate that they now had, they were no longer considered by members of Heaven's Gate to be the people that they had been prior to the start of the group. You know, they took on a new life. And it gave them a way to erase their human personal histories as the histories of souls who formerly occupied these bodies, of course. They're not even important.
No, this is just, like I said, just a vehicle.
Just a vehicle. Another New Age belief of the group was the ancient astronaut hypothesis. The term ancient astronauts is used to refer to various beliefs that extraterrestrials visited Earth in the distant past. Applewhite taught it as the belief that aliens planted seeds of current humanity millions of years ago and have to come to reap the harvest of their work in the form of spiritually evolved individuals who will then join the ranks of flying saucer crews.
I mean,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, very much.
Did
so.
you get all that?
I was like literally about to go see the new Alien movie, and that's literally the whole plot of like Alien Prometheus, of just like the alien astronauts who came down and and dropped off life to planet Earth and made whatever things grow and stuff. It's like, yeah, it's very familiar.
Very familiar.
It's a very popular concept.
They believed only a select few members of humanity will be chosen to advance to this transhuman state. The rest will be left to wallow in the spiritually poisoned atmosphere of a corrupt world. Only the individuals who choose to join Heaven's Gate and make the sacrifices required by membership would be allowed to escape human suffering. Now, there are a few ways to enter the next level, Andy, if you're curious.
I mean, I am.
Number 1, physical pickup onto a Tila, a spacecraft, obviously, and transfer to a next level body aboard that craft. Number 2, natural death, accidental death, or death from random violence.
Would that not be accidental? To an extent.
Well, to an extent.
Yes.
But it's
It's an accident for me.
Yeah, manslaughter.
Yeah. I wasn't planning on this. This
Still
was
an
an accident.
accident. But here, the graduating soul leaves the human container for a perfected next level body.
Okay. Trading up a bit.
Right. Now, number 3, you can get there through outside persecution that leads to death.
Okay.
Yeah. So after the deaths of the Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas, and the events involving Randy Weaver at Ruby Ridge, Applewhite was afraid that the American government would murder the members of Heaven's Gate. So he wanted to be covered there. Now, there's also willful exit from the body in a dignified manner, which, spoiler alert, this is the one they pick.
Gotcha.
Near the end, Applewhite had a revelation that they may have to abandon their human bodies and achieve the next level just as Jesus had done. Now, this occurred on March 22nd and 23rd when 39 members committed suicide and graduated to the next level.
Hell of a ceremony.
In 1993, the group ran a statement in USA Today. It was published on May 27th, and they paid $30,000 to run a full-page ad titled UFO Cult Resurfaces with Final Offer. They published a warning at the bottom of the ad that read, "If the above information is consumed or assimilated, you may experience such side effects as loss of marriage, family, friends, career, respectability, and credibility. Continued use could even result in the loss of your membership in the human kingdom."
God, I feel like I could just take that warning and put it on so many things of today's media or just like today's products. This could be the same thing that pops up after listening to a Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh, God.
The same thing pops up after watching The Bachelor.
Right. But the group then reformatted the statement, titled it Extraterrestrials Return with Final Warning. And between June and September of that same year, it was published in over 20 weekly and monthly alternative newspapers and magazines in the U.S., Australia, and Canada. And on March 19th, 1997, Marshall Applewhite taped himself speaking of mass suicide and asserted it was now the only way to evacuate this Earth. After claiming that a spacecraft was trailing Comet Hale-Bopp, Applewhite persuaded 38 followers to commit suicide so that their souls could board the supposed craft. In October of 1996, the group purchased alien abduction insurance that would cover up to 50 members and would pay out $1 million per person. The policy covered abduction, impregnation, and death by aliens, Andy. So don't worry.
I love that that somebody sells this insurance policy.
I would sell it to them.
I just love that some company sells this insurance policy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll insure you against all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I still...
Done by aliens.
Is there a single death certificate on file that says death by aliens?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's pretty
I'll insure it.
Yeah. I mean...
Can you find me a single case of this? No? Hell yeah, I'll insure it.
Yeah, I'll insure it. The group rented a 9,200 square foot mansion located in a gated community of upscale homes in the San Diego area, community of Rancho Santa Fe, the house we were talking about earlier. The group paid $7,000 per month to rent the house in cash every month. 38 Heaven's Gate members, plus group leader Applewhite, were found dead in the home. On March 26, 1997, in the heat of the California spring, many of the bodies had already begun to decompose by the time they were discovered, and the bodies were later cremated. Members took phenobarbital mixed with applesauce and washed it all down with vodka. Additionally, they secured plastic bags around their heads after ingesting the mix to induce asphyxiation. Authorities found the dead lying neatly in their own bunk beds, their faces and torsos covered by a square purple cloth. Each member carried a $5 bill and a roll of quarters in their pockets. The $5 bill was to cover vagrancy fines while members were out on jobs, while the quarters were to make phone calls. All 39 members were dressed in identical black shirts and sweatpants, brand new black and white Nike Decades, and armband patches reading Heaven's Gate Away Team, one of many instances of the group's use of the Star Trek fictional universe, like Andy was talking about earlier.
It's literally like they left with almost like one last pun as well. Like, we're the away team because we're leaving, you know? We're the away team.
We're the away team.
I bet they'll get a good laugh about this when they find our vehicles.
Right.
It's like, yeah, I'm sure they will.
Yeah, hilarious. But the members between the ages of 26 and 72 are believed to have died in 3 groups over 3 successive days, with remaining participants cleaning up after each group. 15 members died on March 24th, and the remaining group members assisted them and then cleaned up when they were done. There were now 24 remaining, including Applewhite. 15 more died on March 25th, and again the remaining group members assisted them and then cleaned up when they were done. 9 members died on March 26th. Applewhite was the third to last member to die. 2 people remained after him and were the only ones found without bags tied over their heads. Among the dead was Thomas Nichols, brother of the actress Nichelle Nichols, who is best known for her role in the original Star Trek television series.
Yep. Michelle Nichols is the
Again.
original Aurora.
Yeah,
thanks.
again.
You think you can get your sister to come by maybe sometime?
Right.
No, I don't think she will.
No, I don't think she will. The group put out a press release on their website after the mass suicide, presumably posted by the 2 members who ran the website and still maintain it to this day. It said, "By the time you read this, we suspect that the human bodies we were wearing have been found and that a flurry of fragmented reports have begun to hit the wire services. For those who want to know the facts, the following statement has been issued. By the time you receive this, we'll be gone, several dozen of us. We came from the level above human in distant space, and we have now exited the bodies that we were wearing for our earthly task. To return to the world from whence we came. Task completed. The distant space we refer to is what your religious literature would call the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God." The press release went on for 9 paragraphs and outlined their beliefs and the reason that they exited their bodies. They also suggested to those wishing to join them that anyone serious about considering this go into their most quiet place and ask, scream with all their being, directing their asking to the highest source they can imagine to give them guidance. When news broke out of the suicides and their relation to the Hale-Bopp comet, the co-discoverer of the comet, Alan Hale, was drawn into the story. Hale's phone never stopped ringing, he said. He didn't respond until the next day when he spoke at a press conference on the subject, only after researching details of the incident. Hale discussed the scientific significance and popular lore of comets and gave a personal account of his discovery. Then went on to criticize the combination of scientific illiteracy, willful delusions, a radio talk show's deception about imaginary spacecraft following the comet, and the cult's bizarre yearnings for ascending to another level of existence that led the Heaven's Gate mass suicides. Hale said that well before Heaven's Gate, he had told a colleague this. He said, quote, "We are probably going to have some suicides as a result of this comet. The sad part is that I was really not surprised. Comets are lovely objects, but they don't have apocalyptic significance. We must use our minds, and we must use reason." Now, the 2 surviving members still maintain the group's website to this day, although it has not been altered since the suicide. And the 2 do not identify themselves in interviews. I think it's interesting, Andy. It started with 2 and it ended with 2.
I know the 2 that still maintain the website. They put out like a release or one, like kind of like a who they are type situation, but they didn't say who they were.
Yeah.
But they said they were specifically tasked to be left behind to continue to spread the message.
Of course.
So it's like they were chosen and they accepted this position.
How do you volunteer for that, right?
I feel like that's the easiest position to volunteer for.
Yeah.
Who you want to stay behind and not drink the Kool-Aid?
Oh, that would be me.
Cool.
I will do that.
I volunteer.
I'm quite tech
wholeheartedly.
savvy, sir.
I 100% will absolutely do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think that's a hard position to fill.
No, I don't think so. I just thought it was interesting. And these two people are still out here, and it's like, at first I thought, man, they must have heavy hearts, but really probably not. I mean, how can you feel guilty about this? These people did this all on their own free will. Mm-hmm. You know, they weren't being held against their will. Obviously, they lost tons of members. They had 100 members at one time when they first started.
Yeah.
And only 39 people were left at the suicide. So you see what I'm saying? And that was when they first started. So I'm sure over the course of when they started and when the suicide happened, they grew to much larger numbers than 100.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
one time like I said, they'd already done at one point. We didn't really cover it, but they did at one point. They had like a doomsday situation where they thought the world was going to end and this situation was going to happen, and they brought a bunch of people out to like the woods to like witness this event, and nothing happened. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of one like they kind of keep moving the goalposts and they had to keep changing this thing. You're like, well, maybe we read the pamphlet wrong, and I think it was was that a 6? Oh, it's a 9. Damn. You know what? It just happens sometimes.
Exactly. It does, Andy. It happens. But I'm glad we got to recover this one. It was fun revisiting this case, watching some of the old videos like Andy alluded to earlier. A lot of those videos of Marshall Applewhite are still out there, and they're just as creepy now as they were then.
Oh, God. Watching him is just weird.
Just watching his beady eyes just jolt around the screen. Oh, man, it's just creepy. It really is. And he's so convinced.
Yeah.
He's so convinced. And then there's now with all these documentaries and stuff that comes out, there's like has come out since we covered this case the first time. I think this episode, the first episode is in the vault. If you guys are looking through the catalog and being like, I don't see it at all, I'm pretty sure it's in the vault on Patreon. But either way, there's all these home videos from inside the home in San Diego. And they're just like they're playing games and they're having parties. Like at first glance, you're like, what's wrong with this? These people are living their best life. But then you start to look around. It's like, wait a minute. Everybody has the same haircut, regardless of sex. And then everyone's wearing the same clothes. What the hell?
How many people are here? Like,
right?
Yeah, you start realizing,
whoa,
like,
wait a second.
There's a lot of people. Wait,
right?
How many people are here? Did I see that person twice? I can't.
Right? What the hell? Yeah, it's weird. And because of that, like we were talking about earlier in the show, the neighbors had no idea how many people lived there because so many of them look the same. Mm-hmm. And so when they would just come, and you just think about it, neighbors that you see, especially in very prestigious neighborhood like this, I mean, remember their rent was $7,000 a month.
It's a big house, 9,000 square foot house.
So they probably had a decent sized property, probably some hedges along the side or large trees or whatnot for privacy. So it's not like their neighbors are right next door. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, but it is just crazy that happened. I mean, God, I wonder if the price of that house went up or down, probably really down. You could probably get that house super cheap now.
At the time, I'm sure it went down real fast.
Even now, I mean, this ain't even that long ago. You're talking 30 years ago.
No, I remember seeing some of the pictures of them bringing the bodies out of the house, and yeah, you're right. It's a nice house. It's kind of
gorgeous.
It's kind of secluded. It's not like everybody's not on top of each other. It's a big house, so yeah, they had a lot of space. They had a bit of privacy, and just like any other cult, they had gotten their members to a point, those are the ones that lived in the house, to just this point of regiment. They were doing the same thing over and over again. They were eating the same diet of like pureed food, like no flavor, nothing fun, no cigarettes, no alcohol,
fun, man. Get out of here.
No anything, no caffeine, no nothing. So it's like you get everybody to this point where they're just listening and they're just accepting of whatever you're saying because they just don't have the will really to think for themselves anymore.
Exactly. And that's the saddest thing about these is that so many of the members were young too. Mm-hmm. I mean, very few. I know the ages were 27 to
71 or something like that.
26 to 72. But man, I would say the majority of those members were under 40. Mm-hmm. That's sad, man. Lots of people were successful. They had successful careers, established people in their communities, and just left it all.
Yep.
Just dipped to go to space. It's crazy. They probably don't even have Oh My Gaia in space, Andy. Why would you even want to go?
I bet you got to bring your own.
You probably got to bring your own. But the good thing is you can stock up on it now. And then when the kingdom level comes knocking, you'll be ready.
Yeah, the next time the spacecraft comes by, you'll bring enough for everybody.
The next millennia, you'll be ready. Because Oh My Gaia is an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while still maintaining effectiveness. And at Oh My Gaia, they have tons of scents to choose from, guys, from lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside, bergamot amber, pear, sweet pea, sailor, barbershop, and true crime pine, of course, and so many more. But True Crime Pine, that's a great place to start because you're True Crime Guys listeners. And also because you're True Crime Guys listeners, you can use the code word CREEPER for 15% off. CREEPER for 15% off your order at ohmygaia.com. That's OHMYGAIA.com for 15% off your order. Don't forget to use that code word CREEPER. Links right below the description of this episode. And make sure you give Oh My Gaia a follow on Instagram at shop_ohmygaia. All right. And also, don't forget to check out Patreon, guys. Patreon.com/truecrimeguys. Best way to support this show, and we appreciate you very much. Like I said at the beginning, you can get these episodes early, ad-free, with about, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes of conversation before the show, right, Andy? Just depending on how we're feeling.
Depending on how, until we realize, oh shit, we've been recording for a while.
Maybe we should actually start the show. But yeah, me and Andy like to shoot the shit before the show and, kind of get warmed up, and we put all that extra content on Patreon at the end of the episode, of course. We're not going to waste your time at the beginning. What are we, monsters? No. But again, guys, that's patreon.com/truecrimeguys. Also, make sure you check out our other shows, Strange and Unexplained, and of course, our newly added show, Cryptic Soup, wherever you listen to podcasts. Cryptic Soup, hosted by Thina and Kylie. New episodes every Wednesday. All right, guys. Andy, you got anything?
I don't think so, man. We had a good week so far. We got Patreon coming up in a couple weeks.
We do.
Other than that, man, I gotta keep on creeping, I think.
I think we just got to keep on creeping.
I stole your line. Damn it.
You did.
Damn it.
I guess I'll say bye.